All right, in this video and in the next video, we're basically going to be walking through the different endocrine glands, and we're not going to cover all of them by any means. We're just going to cover just the ones that I wanted to cover, basically. We will look today or in this video at the hypothalamus and the pituitary, which are the kind of the primary two endocrine glands. And then the next video, we'll look at maybe 3 or 4. I don't really remember how many it was. All right, so we're going to look at the hypothalamus first. Remember, the hypothalamus is part of the brain. It is considered the master control endocrine gland. It receives information from the whole body. It is receiving this information about homeostasis, blood pressure, blood sugar, temperature, calcium levels. I mean, you just name it. It is receiving that information and then can tell its next person in line what to do regarding that information that it receives. The next person in line is the pituitary gland. It's not a person. It's also a part of the brain. It's a really small part of the brain. You can see this here. The hypothalamus there's in the upper right-hand corner of this picture, and then this is the pituitary gland here. And think of the hypothalamus as basically turning the pituitary gland on and off, whereas the pituitary gland is the one that's directly talking to all the other glands. The hypothalamus is receiving information back from them, and so it's the one that controls that feedback loop that we mentioned earlier. The pituitary gland secretes at least 8 major hormones, and it has 2 parts, as you can see here. It has an anterior and the posterior lobes, is what they're called, of the pituitary gland. And so the way we're going to divide this is we're going to look at the posterior first and then the anterior and look at the 2 types of hormones that they produce. All right, so this is kind of how I've done this. I think you don't feel the need to write all the things down that you see. Obviously, you're welcome to do that if you'd like, but I wouldn't. I would just kind of hit the high points. And so first, we're going to look at the posterior pituitary, and it produces 2 hormones, oxytocin and ADH, or Anti-Diuretic Hormone. You can always abbreviate that. Just make sure you know what ADH stands for. And each of these hormones are composed of 9 amino acids. They're very similar to one another, actually. They differ in only 2 amino acids. And so very, very similar hormones. Oxytocin is a strong stimulant for uterine contractions during childbirth. You've probably heard the term induced labor. So when a woman goes in to have labor induced, this is the hormone that they give her to induce labor. It's a hormonal trigger for milk production as well. Both of these actually are positive feedback loops. And so we mentioned negative feedback loop. A positive feedback loop is when the production of the hormone causes the production of more hormone. And so if you think about uterine contractions, oxytocin produces or is produced, it causes the uterus to contract. Those uterine contractions then cause the production of more oxytocin. And milk production, milk is being used by the baby, and so the use of that milk causes the production then of more milk. All right. And so anti-diuretic hormone is controls the amount of fluid in the system. And so basically the way to think about this is the hypothalamus can detect solute concentrations in the blood. And if those solute concentrations get too high, so what does that mean? If you are becoming dehydrated, if you are losing water then there's more solute in you than there is water, right? Though your liquid is becoming too concentrated. There's less water in it. So if the brain picks that up, then the posterior pituitary will release this anti-diuretic hormone, which causes the kidneys to reabsorb more water than they normally would to prevent urine formation. And so you can see here, I've been talking and I haven't said this explicitly, but I've listed the target organs of these. So if oxytocin causes uterine contractions, then what is the target? The uterus, the kidneys for the ADH. And so I think you can see that. These pictures are really good for that, by the way. So if you need to pause the video and just look at that to get your own idea of that, that's what I would do. All right, so anterior pituitary next. 6 different hormones. All but 2 of these are called tropic hormones. Tropic hormones, a new idea. A tropic hormone is a hormone that regulates the secretion of another hormone. So it is released by the pituitary, and that hormone then causes another gland to release its hormone. All right, the first one we're going to look at is called growth hormone. Sometimes you'll see it called somatotropin, body tropin. And so it's produced by somatotropic cells in the anterior pituitary. And you know what growth hormone is. You can just read the word growth. It has to do with indirectly promoting actions that cause growth. So think about all the actions that would be needed to cause growth. There are lots of them. Muscles, bones, cartilage, other tissues, as you see it listed there, need to get bigger. And so it's also going to mean that metabolism is going to be increased as well. When people take human growth hormone, like illegally in athletics, a lot of the times what they're doing that for is either for tissue repair or to lose weight. And the reason it causes you to lose weight is because it increases your metabolic rate artificially. In a sense, it's kind of tricking your body to as if there's growth hormone happening. When someone's going through puberty and they have all this growth hormone going into their body, it's why they have so many physical changes so fast, because of this increased growth hormone. The next anterior pituitary hormone is called thyroid stimulating hormone, and it is a tropic hormone that is produced by the thyroid that stimulates normal development and secretory activity of the thyroid. We're going to talk a little bit more about the thyroid in the next video. And so that one's pretty simple. Thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid. All right. Then there is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Easy adrenaline, right? Or adrenal glands. Cortico is just it's a steroid thing. So corticotropic hormone, and it causes the adrenal cortex to release any number of corticosteroids. There are a lot of different corticosteroids that do different things. We're not going to get into a lot of that detail, but you just need to know this is one of the hormones. Then there is the gonadotropin hormones. There's a list of those. Gonado or gonad is just reproductive organ. So gonadotropin hormones. There's the follicle stimulating hormone that is in that group, and it stimulates the release of a follicle, which is basically the egg case. And then there is the luteinizing hormone, which also is a reproductive hormone. And so this stimulates the production of gametes and production of other reproductive hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone in males. And so there's that. And then the last one is called prolactin. Pro means like stimulates or makes or goes forward, and lactin, think lactose. So prolactose, this stimulates the production of milk in breast tissue of females, and it's unknown what it does in males at this point. But these are the different hormones that are produced by the pituitary. And don't forget, pituitary is divided into 2 sections: the posterior, which only produces 2, and the anterior, which produces the other 6.